Okay. Let's see. We have a Mishnah on 22b of days and middays, correct? Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. Let's listen about learning. We should have the base in English immediately. Learning for Shlema, for my father, for Naftali ben Minuch Bela. Okay, the Mishnah starts like this: Shvur Shlo Yochal. Someone takes an oath that he's not going to eat, but Achal v'Shasa, and then he ate and he drank. Now, eating and drinking both considered eating, but he did two things: he ate and he drank, and that's both a violation of his oath that he said he wasn't going to eat. But it says Ein chayav alachas, he's only going to be chayav one, and we'll explain in a moment. Clear. It's like he ate once and then he ate again. So if it's all in the same forgetting, he's only chayav once. However, the next case is you see a little bit of a contrast there. It says Shvur Shlo Yochal v'Shlo Yeshta. He says, I will not eat and I will not drink. Now he already itemized what he's not going to do. Not going to eat and he's not going to drink. Then he's chayav shtayim because he took two oaths. Then each one is individual. Now, the problem with this the Gemara is going to discuss that if he already said that I'm not going to eat, and included in not eating is not drinking. So how do you take a second oath on the first oath he already has? One oath doesn't fall on the second oath. He already said he's not going to drink, but he didn't say it specifically. He said he's not going to eat. But included in eating is not drinking. So what is he going to do? Take another oath? Yeah, but why is he chayav two? If he says I'm not going to drink tea, he says again I'm not going to drink tea. Now is it going to be chayav two because he took two oaths? No, forget about the forgetting. Forget about the forgetting. Because one oath doesn't fall on the second oath once it's already prohibited. So how's that going to work? So we'll see in the Gemara. Now let's go to the next case. Shvur Shlo Yochal. He takes note that he's not going to eat. V'achal pas chitim, pas seirim, pas kusmin. And he does eat. And not only does he eat, but he eats wheat bread, he eats barley bread, he eats kusmin is spelt bread. Ein chayav alachas. He's only chayav one because he said he wasn't going to eat, and he didn't, and he ate. But he didn't take separate oaths for each one. All of those was a violation of the first oath and of the one oath that he took, and it's only going to be chayav one carbon. We're talking about the carbon oil of Yered, right? Let's say if he said Shvur Shlo Yochal pas chitin or pas seirim or pas kusmin, let's say he actually specified. He says I'm not going to eat wheat bread or barley bread or spelt bread, and then he eats them. Then he's chayav kol achas v'achas because he took independent oaths for each one. That was 3 violations. Let's say the next case, Shvur Shlo Yeshta, says I'm not going to drink. Shasa mashkin harbin, he drank a lot of different drinks. Ein chayav alachas, only chayav one because it's all under the same category. Shvur Shlo Yeshta yayin v'shemen udvash. He says I'm not going to drink wine, oil, or honey. That was his oath. V'shasa, and he drank each of those. And it's chayav kol achas v'achas, exactly like a repeat of what we said, because he itemized it, so each one has its own prohibition. Shvur Shlo Yochal takes an oath he's not going to eat. But then he goes ahead and he eats foods that are not edible. He drinks that are not fit for drinking, not edible drinks. And he's pater, so he's exempt because it's not food, it's not edible food. The Gemara is going to go through, like we mentioned earlier, the Gemara is going to get 2 possible explanations. One is that it wasn't kosher. The other possible explanation is that it wasn't edible. Literally, it wasn't edible. With the dirt, that's going to be the second example, second explanation, that he ate dirt. Yeah. Before it wasn't. Before it was a brisa or a mishnah.
For the mission.
Yeah. So now it's the mishnah. Now it's the main. Yeah, we didn't have it in the mishnah. How do we say it over here? Kidarava, right? Kidarava, it's going to be. Yes, that's how it's going to come up over here as well. Okay. Potter says example. Let's say he takes note that he's not going to eat. And then he goes ahead and he eats non-kosher animals that died without shchita, or trephus, or creepy crawling things. He's chayiv. That is considered that he ate. Reb Shimon Paiter. Reb Shimon says that he's exempt. Why does Reb Shimon say he's exempt? Because he already took an oath on Har Sinai that he's not going to eat this. So, right, when he accepted the Torah. So therefore, one oath doesn't fall on a previous oath. You can't take another oath. So therefore, Reb Shimon says he's going to be chayiv for the nevela part, but not for the oath. Yeah. Amar, let's say he says, Kainam ishti nanesli. My wife is forbidden to have enjoyment from me. Machalti ayam if I ate today. So he makes like a conditional nether or shvua, I don't know what it's called. Says his wife can't have benefits from him, shvua, I guess, can't have benefits from him if he ate, on that condition if he ate. And the truth is, and he ate all these treifa things. It is considered like he ate. It's considered like he ate. And his wife is prohibited. He's fulfilled that condition. Okay. See in the Gemara. Amar Rav Chia bar Rav Amar Shmuel. Yeah, Rav Chia bar Rav says the name of Shmuel. Shavua shlayaychal b'shasa chayav. Someone takes an oath that he's not going to eat, and then he went ahead and he drank. He's chayav. You know, he said food. He didn't say foods, like food. He said he's not going to eat, and all he did was drink. But nevertheless, drinking is considered eating. Possibly we could say that it's logical. Possibly we could say that it's based on a pasuk. If you want to say it's logical, someone tells to us, "Friend, let's go get a bite." And what do? They go eat and drink, right? They don't bite the food. They don't bite the drink, right? But nevertheless, that's the term. Let's go eat something. They drink. So that's what it means. Eating means drinking. If you want, we can have a Torah source as well. Drinking is including in eating. Amar Lakish says this. How do you know that drinking is considered in the category of eating? Now it says, and you're going to eat in front of Hashem in the place that He chose you, your tithe of your grain and your tirish is wine. Tirish chamrahu and ksiva chalta. Pasuk started off saying you're going to eat. You will eat it. It says wine. You don't eat wine, you drink wine. Nevertheless, that's considered eating. Because it goes under the category, that's a Torah source that it means to eat. Okay, top of 23, 23a. Gemara says, how do you know that he drank the wine? Maybe he didn't really drink it. Maybe he ate it together with a nigrain. I always thought that a nigrain was like a beet juice. It was a like what's left over from a like a borscht type of thing. That's what I thought it was. Anyway, over here it says no, it's the actual beef itself. This came up in the Gemara Brachas when it talks about drinking olive oil. It says that you don't make a bracha on olive oil because it causes damage. Gemara says, but if you take it together with a nigrain, so then you would say a bracha if you're taking it for the throat, for the sore throat. You would say ha'etz. So the anigrin comes up. Anyway, anigrin would be this the beets, right? So say beets. The Amar, maybe he's actually eating it. How do you know it's talking about that wine? The drinking wine is considered eating. Maybe not. Maybe he's eating the wine together with anigrin. Translation comes back. Wine was commonly added to these dishes. No, just in brachas, he doesn't say that it's a food. In brachas, it doesn't look like a food. It says maya, the silka. The Gemara says, look, take a look. Anigrain maya the silk. It's the water of the beets. That's why is it a food? Gemara's making it look like the water is the food. I don't know. Rashi says it's no. Does it say the water?
From brothers, when you cook the vegetables, it takes the essence.
No, but are you eating it or are you drinking? The bracha doesn't matter. I can say it's on olive oil if it wouldn't be damaging. That doesn't tell me if it's a food, right? Okay, I guess I mean, yeah, the Gemara knows because it's a food in the time of the Gemara. It's just funny that it's called Maya the Silka, and the Gemara is telling me that it's a food. Okay, Damarav Bashmal Anigrain Maya the Silki Achsidrain. It's funny because the Gemara Brachas didn't say Achsidrain, said Ansigrain. Is there another version in your Gemara? I don't have any note in mine. I have an old Gemara. Just see it. You have Achsidrain?
I have the Masifta. They still stay taking apple, making apple juice. So when you're drinking the apple juice, what is it? You're eating apples. That's what it is. And the bracha is not relevant. It's what's helping healing by chewing or by drinking.
Daf Yomi Warriors. Does it say over there? Those Lamed Vav or something? Yeah.
Lamed Hey.
Base. Anigrain Maya the Silka. Ansigrain. Oh, over here it's corrected. In Brachas, they corrected to Achsidrain. I didn't know that. I didn't see that note in the Brachas. So I always thought it was Ansigrain. In Brachas, there's a note that corrects it to us. They say that ours is the correct version. Okay. Achsidrain, which is another type of vegetable dish, peppers and other things. Maya the Kula Silki is the water of all the types of cooked vegetables, I guess. Shalki is supposed to be. Shalki. Silka is beets. Shalki is boiled vegetables. Okay, so maybe he's eating it. That's the next question. Maybe he's eating it. Says, I'll give you another source. It's not coming from the wine because the wine you can possibly eat inside the dish. And rather, there's another source, another pasuk. It says, Yayin. It says Yayin. That's Chamru. Yayin is wine. Okay. And it says you will eat it. Pasuk says, here it says, talking about Maseches Sheni again, it says you will use the money for anything that your soul desires, whether it's cattle or sheep or wine or shecher. And it says, and you'll eat it. Gemara says, you didn't resolve the issue. Maybe you'll eat it. You'll eat the wine with a nigrin. It says no. Shecher ksiv midid the It has to be something that makes people drunk. In a way of drinking, midid the meshaka. In a way, I guess it means way of drinking. Tells well, v'dilma devela kilis. Maybe you're actually eating the wine, and you're getting drunk from the date of kilis. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Achal devela kilis v'shasa dvash v'chalav nechtas mektash v'avet chayev. You're not allowed to drink wine before you enter the temple because you can't be intoxicated. What about other types of intoxicating? The same halacha applies. So it's only by the nazir that it's specifically wine. Anything that would be intoxicating would have the halacha of that you can't be serving in the temple or operating heavy machinery. So if let's say he eats this type of date that causes people to get drunk, I don't think they have this nowadays. Is there a date that makes people drunk? I know you think it's soaked? No. I know the horses, when they eat the apples, they get drunk off the apples. It ferments in their stomach. That's the people with the horse. They have to cut the apple trees. So the horses can't reach them. The horses go wild. Anyway, it's not horses. It's talking about people. Apparently, this can make a person intoxicated. Maybe it's like a sugar high.
Something similar like maybe some type of beta out. But the one has to be
This is a date. It's not that it has wine in it. It has. So we're talking about that it's intoxicating. Well, we're asking now is that how do you know that it still means drink? Maybe it means food. And so how do you get drunk? You got drunk off something else. Ella gamar shecher minazar. Rather, it says shecher. We're going to learn shecher from nazar. Malahal and yayin afkan yayin. Just like by the nazar, it says, what does it say? Yayin v'shecher al tesh. No, that's by the going into the migdash. But by the nazar, it says also yayin.
Yayin v'shecher yazid chometz. Shecher lo yishte.
Yeah. In the remember that old Hertz Chumash? The Hertz Chumash, remember that? It's in there, I think by the Nazar, I think it said Yain v'Shecher, I think it said wine and beer. And Shecher in modern Hebrew means beer, but it's in halacha it doesn't mean beer, it means hard liquor, like intoxicating wine. It should be like cognac, be like a stronger wine. You gotta check that out. It's not it wouldn't be a halachic translation. Okay. So we have a source that wine we're not looking for wine. We're looking for a source that drinking is considered eating, and we found the source because by the Maseches Sheni says that you will eat, and it's referring to wine. And what type of wine is it? It's talking about wine that we learned from Nazar, from Shecher. Amar Rava. Rava says, Afanana mitanina. By the way, we have this in our Mishnah as well. The Mishnah says, Shvuah shlo yoichal, v'achal v'shasa, in a chayav alachas. He ate and he drank. He said he's not going to eat. And he ate and he drank. The Mishnah says he's only chayav one. It says, now, if you say that drinking is including and eating, so I would need the Tana to tell me that you only chayav one because you just violated it twice. So telling me that it's fine, it's only once. But if you say that drinking is not considered eating, it's like a sarcastic type of Gemara. You don't see this so often. It says, but if you would say that shvuah that he's not going to eat, and then he eats and he does work, would it needed to tell me that he's only chayav once? What did he has nothing to do with what we're talking about. The fact that it has to tell me that it's only chayav once tells me that really it's considered eating. Amalei Abaya, Baya says to Rava, Alamai, what do you want to say? Shtia b'chlal achila. You want to say that drinking is considered eating? Tema seifa. Let's read further in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Shavuos shlayachal v'shlayeshta. Let's say he says both. I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink. V'achal v'shasa. And then he ate and he drank. So it says chayiv shtayim. There's a problem here. Kiv and the amar shlayachal. Once he said he's not going to eat. What does that include? Eating and drinking. Itzalei b'shti is already prohibited to drink. Why, when he says he's not going to drink, why is he chayav for that? He already prohibited himself on drinking when he said he's not going to eat.
What about the
Intention. I mean, what was he thinking when he said it?
He meant two different things. He didn't learn that they both fell into the same category.
Let's take a look. We'll say, let's see. If he would have said, I'm not going to drink, he said twice, would he be chayiv two? So Amarle, so Rava responds, Hasam the Amar shlayeshte v'hadar Amar shlayechal. Over there it has to be that first he said, I'm not going to drink. And then he said, I'm not going to eat. So, shtia b'chlal achila. Isa. That drinking is included in eating, but achila b'chlal shtia lessa. But eating is not included in drinking. So, which means that when it's supposed to be the opposite of what the Mishnah says. Mishnah said that it says I'm not going to eat, and then he says I'm not going to drink. We're saying it goes the other way. First he says I'm not going to drink. Why does that take effect? Because he says I'm not going to drink. Well, he never said anything before that, so that's an oath. He says I'm not going to eat. But that included in that is not drinking, but he never said he's not going to eat. So that shvua takes effect. So now he has the oath on the drinking and he has the oath on the eating. If he would have done it the other way, it wouldn't have worked. But if he would have said it the way the Mishnah says it, that I'm not going to eat, and then he says I'm not going to drink, he'd only be chayiv once, because including in the eating is also the drinking. Gemara says, if that's the case, adatani reisha, so then why does the beginning of the Mishnah need to say that he took an oath that he's not going to eat, and then he ate and he drank? He's only going to be chayiv once. Listen, could have said even a bigger chiddush. We could have said he took an oath that he's not going to eat, and he took an oath that he's not going to drink, independent of the oath that he's not going to eat. Still, he's only going to be chayav once. Why do you have to say when is he chayav once? If what the Mishnah really says is, if he took an oath that he's not going to eat, then he ate and he drank, it's only chayav once. We could have said a bigger chiddush. He took an oath that he's not going to eat, and he took an oath that he's not going to drink, it's only going to be chayav once. Because he already took an oath that he's not going to drink included in the eating. He's only going to be chayiv two if he said it the opposite. He's not going to drink and then he's not going to eat. Rather, we're going to drop that answer that we gave. We're going to say that he's going to be chayiv, even he's going to be chayiv twice, even if he says first and then he's not going to eat, and then he says afterwards he's not going to drink. He's still going to be chayiv. Shani hacha. Over here it's different. Even the amar shlayachal, since he said he's not going to eat, and then he says that he's not going to drink. Gali adaite, he let us know.
Did not include.
Let us know the hachachil damar achilik reidasi. Obviously, when he said he's not going to eat, he meant specifically eating.
So that's how
or else he wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Or else he wouldn't have had to say, "I'm not going to drink." Why did he say he's not going to drink? Because when he said eating, now it told us what his intention was. That his intention was only to eat. So he had to add in that he's not going to drink. And we know that because he added in that he's not going to drink. Okay.
Oh, that's because of the position of the woman. Like if the husband nullified the vow, like if she ate something that she thought she was supposed to, that she should still apply, even though it was nullified vow. So here, like if
yeah, she's actually not liable. She needs an atonement, but she wouldn't bring an offering. Right? That's correct. If
does something.
She needs an atonement. Hashem Yislach La. It says she needs an atonement. Remember that story?
Because of the intention.
Yeah, if a woman took a vow and the husband annulled it, but he didn't tell her that he annulled it, she goes deliberately and violates it. And even though it wasn't there because the husband had annulled it. So she says that she needs an atonement because she thought she's doing a sin. So
Here, if he takes two independent, why would they include it in one if intentionally he took two?
he took an oath that he's not going to eat. He took an oath that he's not going to drink.
And the second one is revealing that the first one did not drink. Otherwise, why would you?
And then why would they give him just one charge? If it intentionally they kill him. No. The whole time it was just saying
No, because that's confusing the over there between him and Hashem. This now we're talking about the sacrifice. The sacrifice is not if a person intended to do a sin because he thought today was Shabbos and he turns on the light, so he doesn't have to bring in carbon because of that. Here we're talking about the halachic status. Yeah, he has to do tshuva because he's trying to rebel against Hashem, but that's not what we're discussing. Omar Ravashi says, Masnisa Nami Deka. Our Mishnah is also precise. It says, Shvuah Shlei Eichal. V'achal Eichlem She'enim Reim Lachila. V'shasam Ashkem She'en Relish Pater. If you notice, when it said, he takes a note that he's not going to, the second to the last cases of the Mishnah, it says, takes a note that he's not going to eat, and he ends up eating food that's not edible, or he drinks that's not edible, that's not drinkable. Now, 1 second. Did you say he's pater? Haruyin, but if they would be drinkable, then chayev. But he said he's not going to eat. He didn't say he's not going to drink. See, included in the eating is the drinking. Gemara says Dilma the Amar Tarti Shvosh Layachal V'Shlayashtin. That's not a strong proof. This could be we only listed one of them, but we meant to say both of them. Sometimes the Mishnah didn't spell it out. But it's not a strong proof. Okay. Shvuah shlayachal v'achal paschitim. Someone takes an oath that he's not going to eat. And then he went ahead and he ate wheat bread and barley bread and spelt bread. He's only going to be chayav one. But if he took an oath that he's not going to eat wheat bread, spelt bread, and barley bread, and then he eats, he's going to be chayav 3. The Gemara says, how do you know when he said, I'm not going to eat wheat bread, barley bread, and spelt bread, how do you know that he was trying to itemize each one as a separate oath? Maybe Dilma lemifta nafshe maybe what he was really saying is that he doesn't want to make forbidden on himself oath bread. If he would have said bread, then it would have included everything. So he said wheat, barley, and spelt to tell me that to exclude something else. But that's not those are not independent oaths. That's just saying not something else. If he was saying I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to eat that, I'm not going to eat that, so then that would be 3 independent. He'd be chayav for each one. But maybe what he meant was that it's just not. He wanted to be able to eat other things. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, well, the and or is one thing. That's not the emphasis here. The emphasis here is not the and or the or. The emphasis here is that maybe his main point is not what he's saying, but what he's not saying. That's what he's emphasizing. It's like the 2 hairs that I told you about, two fingers. So it said that the Rebbe said the women have to cut their hair 2 fingers. So does that mean that it can't be longer than, or it can't be shorter than? So here we said he took an oath that it's not going to be wheat. He's not going to eat wheat, barley, or spelt. Does that mean that he's not going to eat the wheat, barley, and spelt? Or does that mean that he wants to eat the oats and the rye? And then if it means he wants to eat the oats and the rye, then all of that is all contained as one. But if his main point is that he's not going to eat the wheat, barley, and spelt, then those are three independent. Okay. So the Gemara says, if he just wanted to say that he doesn't want to eat something else, then he didn't have to say bread, bread, bread. He could have said he's not going to eat wheat, barley, and spelt. And then the oats and the rye, it would have. Why does he have to say the bread of this, the bread of that, the bread of? He said the bread. Aha, the bread. He wants to tell me that his main point is the wheat, the barley, and the spelt, and that's going to be three independent oaths. It says Vadil Malakas. Says no. If he would have said he's not going to eat the wheat, the barley, and the spelt, I could have thought that he only isn't going to eat it as to crunch on the kernels. It's toasted kernels that they would maybe he was gonna, but he wasn't taking an oath about bread. Maybe bread he was actually going to eat because I'm not going to eat the wheat, barley, and spelt. Maybe that just means toasted kernels of that. So it says the Havalei Lameim are paschit and sen kusman. Well, he still could have said the bread of wheat, barley, and spelt, and without saying the bread of wheat, the bread of barley, the bread of spelt. And then we would have understood. Would have said that, then we would have understood that his main point is that he's going to eat other things. The fact that he spelled it out, the bread of this, bread of that means that his main point is that he's not going to eat this. But if you don't say bread by each one, maybe he's saying I'm not going to eat wheat bread and I'm not going to crunch on barley and spelt.
Means like what, to chew?
Yeah. Any untypical eating is called lakos. So, so the Gemara says the Havalei Lameim are paschitin b'shel sayim b'shel kusman. No, you could have said the word b'shel and of the bread, wheat bread. Well, actually, paschitin is bread of wheat. You don't need a shell there, right? Because it's automatically the bread of wheat and of barley and of spelt, and that then we would have known that we're talking about the bread. And he didn't have to say the word bread. And that would have told me that his main point is that he's going to eat other things. Why do you say bread, bread, bread? That's coming to tell me that he's not going to eat this. Maybe if he said beshel, then that would mean that he's referring to this multi-grain bread that has wheat in it, and it has barley in it, and it has spelt in it. And that's what he's not going to eat. How do we know that those are independent loaves? We could have said, and so too of barley, and so too of spelt. So pas lamali. Why did I have to say bread, bread, the bread of wheat, the bread of barley, the bread of spelt? It's coming to divide it up into separate oaths. Okay, this, if you're there, you can sort of hear what the emphasis is. But because it's written down, I mean, someone could, they emphasize, I'm not going to eat this, and I'm not going to eat that. We know what he's referring to, that those are separate things. If he would have said, I'm not going to eat this, that, and that, and it sounds like he's about to say, but I'm going to eat that. Then you would,
if you're making a list,
if you were there, like the Medrash sort of does that, like tells you what was happening at the scene. Anyway,
the movie version.
The movie version, right? Someone says, I'm not going to drink. He drinks many different types of drinks. He's only chayav one. But if he says, I'm not going to drink wine, oil, or honey, I'm going to be chayav for each one. We have the same question. How do you know when he said, I'm not going to drink wine, oil, and honey? Maybe what he really meant to say is, but I'm going to drink apple juice. And so therefore, when he said, I'm not going to drink wine, oil, or honey, he didn't mean to make those independent. He meant to make one oath that I'm not going to drink any of those. And because his main point was what he will drink.
Oh.
So the Gemara says, Bishlai Mahasam, when it came to the bread, the Amrit, Miyastrale Paspas Lechiyuve, we explained it because there was an emphasis, because he said, I'm not going to drink the bread. I'm not going to eat the bread of wheat, the bread of barley, the bread of spelt. All of those emphasized that that's his main point of what he's not going to do. But over here, what he's supposed to say? Didn't say like the drink of wine, the drink of he didn't say it. Said wine, oil, and honey. What was he supposed to say that would have emphasized anything different? It's very possible that all he meant over here was that he's going to drink apple juice. And then that would put it all together as one prohibition. Rav Papa says he had to be there. We're talking about that they were on the table, sitting right there. So, that he could have said, said, taking notes, I'm not going to drink these. The fact that he said, I'm not going to drink wine, I'm not going to drink oil, I'm not going to drink honey, it's because he was saying exactly what he's not going to drink. If he wanted to say that he's going to drink something else, he would have said, I'm not going to drink these. I'll have the apple juice from the fridge. I can drink from these. Why do you specify these? If they're all sitting there in front of him, those were independent oaths that he's not going to drink from them. But maybe if he was doing that, then maybe if he would have said Elu, then he said, I'm not going to drink these that are on the table, but I'm going to drink the wine and the oil and the honey that's in the fridge. So he didn't do that. That's why he had to say, I'm not going to drink wine or oil. Because he wanted to tell you, even from the fridge, I'm not going to drink, and I'm going to drink the apple juice. Well, he could have said, I'm not going to drink like these, which would mean even the ones in the fridge, he's not going to drink. And then we would have understood that he's referring to that apple juice is what he wanted to drink, but not that he's not going to drink specifically these as independent oaths. The fact that he said wine, oil, and that means that it was an oath. Maybe if he would have said kagain elu, like these, which would include in the fridge, that would have meant that the amount that there is here, I'm not going to drink, whether here or from the fridge. Kagain means like. But if it's less than this, it's fei mihachi, or more than this, shasina, I will drink. Maybe it's referring to the size. And then, in other words, the emphasis here is not that he's not going to drink wine, oil, and right? The emphasis is that he's going to drink something else. Well, if that was the emphasis, then why didn't he say it in a different way? I'm not going to drink like these. He said, well, he couldn't have said that, because that wouldn't have said exactly what he wanted to say. Well, he could have said, I'm not going to drink from these species. Maybe from these species I'm not going to drink, but I'm going to drink these directly. Right? A little weird. If he says I'm not going to, there's I don't know, tea on the table. It says, I'm not going to drink this type of tea. And then he goes ahead and drinks the tea that's on the table. So I thought you said, he says, no, I'm not going to drink this type, but this one I'm going to drink. This type I'm not going to drink. It's a little strange, but because this is one of the types, this is part of that type. Well, Ema shlayeshta elu minayim. Then he could have said, I'm not going to drink this or its types. Okay. That's a teretz that Rav Papa gives us. Sounds like a daichek, right? A daichek means that you're pushing what the Mishnah said, like in a very general terms, you're limiting it to such a awkward example that it's only going to fit in this little, small scenario where this big halacha is only going to fit in one case, which will never happen. That's called the doichek. Sorry. Yeah. Well, Ravacha Breder Ravika, Amar Ravacha, son of Ravika, he says, we're talking about where his friend is nudging him. His friend is telling me, come drink with me. I have wine, oil, and honey. Yeah. So pusher. Right? The Hayalei could have said an oath that I'm not going to drink with you. Yain v'shem nedvash lamalei. Why did he say wine, honey, wine, oil, and honey? Because he was making an independent oath for each one. Yeah. When they push, you have to bring it to say l'chaim. You don't have to say I'm not going to drink. Take a neder or a shvua that I'm not going to drink vodka or whiskey or wine or this. Say I'm not going to drink. I'm not drinking. I'm not going to drink with you. That's it. The fact that he said all of those details means that each one is a separate neder. Nan Hassam, we learned over there. This, we have the same topic, but we're switching like which courthouse we're in. Until now, we're in the courthouse of the Bezdin Shalmaila. Like what was your oath? Well, it's not Bezdin Shalmaila, but it was like ritual law. Now we're in the monetary law. And someone's claiming from another person, hey, you owe me the wheat and the barley and the spelt. I put it in your thing, give it back to me. So the person says, I don't have anything. It's only going to be chayav one because it turns out that he did have it. So he lied. There's only going to be chayav one. Well, let's say he said, I don't have. He never gave me wheat, barley, and spelt. Then we find that he did. So chayav al-kalachas v'achas is going to be chayav for each one.
What did happen to the yeah, one says, hey, you owe me all this.
We caught him.
What?
Here we caught him. We have witnesses. Here we got caught. Yeah.
Right.
Rabbi Yechanan says, or Rabbi Yechanan's statement is very ambiguous. Rabbi Yechanan says, even if there's the smallest value is combined from all three. Pruta is the smallest kind. A combination of the wheat, the barley, and the spelt from all three equal 1 nickel, right? Pruta, it's like the smallest coin. I don't say penny anymore. I think that's finished, right? The nickel. They all equal one. The smallest coin. It's still going to be chayav. Now,
Still say 299.
So what are they going to do?
They still say it.
So change it to 295.
That's what they told me in the store, that there's no more pennies. Is that did you hear that? No, but they're not making more. That's what someone told me in the store.
It would be smart of them.
Okay.
Unless they put Trump on.
So I'm Rabbi Yechanan. Now you have to see this machlekes. Pligi bar Ravacha Ravina. It's machlekes Ravacha and Ravina. You see what he said? He said, "Shvua she'ein lecha biyadi." I take an oath that you don't have anything in my hands, wheat, barley, or spelt. So the question now, what's coming out is, was there a general oath plus the details that you don't have anything in my hands? That means I don't have anything of yours. There's nothing of yours in my hand. Was there a general oath and there's the details, or was there just the details? So Chad Amar aprati mechayev, that he's going to be chayev for the 3 details, but aklali lo mechayev. But when it came to the general, I don't have anything of yours. That is not chayav because he said, I don't have of yours. Notice, do I put a pause, a comma? I don't have of yours. And then that's one detail. That's like the general. And I also don't have wheat, barley, and spelt. That would mean he'd be chayav now when he's caught. He'd be chayav 4. Because he doesn't have, well, he does. Wheat, he has the wheat, right? So there's a machlekes here. What he's going to be chayav on now? When it says chayav al kalachas v'achas. Now Rabbi Yochanan added in, even if there's a combination of a pruta of all of them. Now, 1 second. We have 2 cases here. We have the first case of the Mishnah, where he says, "Give me the wheat, barley, and the spelt," and he says, "I don't have anything." So it's only chayav 1. Rabbi Yochanan would say that when you have a pruta from the wheat, barley, and spelt, he's only going to be chayav 1. But let's say, what about the second case, where he says, I don't have from you the wheat, I don't have from you the barley, I don't have from you the spelt. So what's going to happen if he has a pruta of all of them? Is he going to be chayav 1 or is he going to be pater? So if we say that he's chayav because of the general as well, if he's chayav 4, then he's going to be chayav 1 over there as well. Because in the general one, he has a pruta, a combination of all 3. But if we say that he's only chayav on the details, but not on the general, then over there he's going to be exempt. He's only going to be chayav in the first case, right? So the chadam, the other one says aklali nami mechayev, chayav on the general. Okay. So again, one says only chayav on the details, but not on the general. Would mean that Rabbi Yochanan's statement is only on the beginning, first case, where he says, I don't have anything of yours. Rabbi Yochanan says that the general, that on that, if you have a combination of all 3 together that equals a pruta, you'd be chayav. Second one opinion says that he's chayav even for the general, and Rabbi Yochanan would say that you chayav both on the first case when he says, I don't have anything, or on the second case where he says, I don't have the wheat, barley, and spelt. He's still going to be chayav. There's a pruta, a combination of all of them because of the general one that is chayav on. 4. Now the question is, hachamai, what's going to be by us? See, we switched to this monetary case where someone's claiming. Let's go back to the case we were talking about, where he says that I'm taking an oath that I'm not going to eat wheat, barley, and spelt bread. Wheat bread, barley, and spelt. Is it going to be chayav 4 or is it going to be chayav 3? Is there still a machlekes there? Yeah. No. 1 second. Oila v'yared is not is only on a regular. Is only on a regular oath. This is going to be an asham. It's a different oath.
So 4 ashams.
Yeah.
So how does he end up bringing the general? If it includes all ending up bringing an asham twice in the same thing.
Yeah. It was considered another violation.
It's another violation of the same.
Because what was demanded of him, he denied. Let's take a look. The Gemara will spell it out a little. It goes like this. Amar Rava says, Hachiyashta, 1 second. Hasam over there, when the person is claiming from him, Machayev aklala, Machayev aprata. He's chayev on the general, he's also chayev on the detail. The mishtaba, v'hada mishtaba, Machayev tati. Because if the person would claim it from him once, and he would go to court, and then he would lie. So, and then he was caught. And then if he would claim it from him again, and he would lie, he would have to, for each one, he would have to bring another sacrifice. So therefore, he's going to be chayav for each one. But hacha isal kadai techisa beklala prata isa beklala. If we would say that there would be a general prohibition, so prata my mechayev. Over here, when he's taking an oath once he already prohibited on himself to eat, so then you can't have another oath of barley and wheat, and because one oath doesn't take effect on a previous oath. So if the general really exists, then he'll never have the other one. So therefore, everyone would agree that there's only the details here, not the general. Okay. Someone takes note that he's not going to eat. And talking about now, if he says he's not going to eat and he ends up eating something that's not fit for food, or no, it's not edible, he's going to be exempt. If he takes note that he's not going to eat and he eats treif, it's machlekes, the Chachamim and Reb Shimon. Right? Chacham says chayev, eats treif, and Reb Shimon says he's exempt. So he says, "Oh, gufa kasha." 1 second. This is self-contradictory. First, you say that if he takes note that he's not going to eat, and eats foods that are not edible, he drinks that are not edible, pati is exempt. Then you say he's chayev and eats treif. But 1 second, treif isn't edible. It's not permitted to eat it. Why is it in the beginning is he exempt when if he eats non-edible, and in the sefer it's going to be chayiv? It's not a question because reisha b'stam sefer b'mefarish. What you have to explain over here is that in the beginning he says I'm not going to eat, and then he went ahead and he ate food that wasn't edible. So if that's the case, he didn't. It's not considered that he ate because that's not edible. The Seifa is where he says, I'm not going to eat nevela, treifa, shkatzim, or masid. And then he went ahead and exactly that's what he did. So because he specified, then he's going to be high. Simple teretz. Where it says, Mefarish nami gufa tikshe.
I think in our time there would be a question of a person instinct to a particular food. So the rest of the world, they eat it. But for this person, it's like eating dirt. So you have people who are look at that, freak out. But for them, it's like eating dirt.
Right.
Allergic.
Yeah. It was it's a family that I know that they don't eat vegetables. The hardest mitzvah for them is mara. And they like gag on it. They can't eat the lettuce. They asked the Rebbe, one of the mother or something asked the Rebbe something. Rebbe said, then just give them vitamins. It'll be fine. One of the kids eats pizza. That's it. It's all day. Not all day. Every day. Not all day. Every day. Very picky eater. What's the science that? Why is it? How does that come about?
It's probably from when they started.
You've heard of Pickwickian? This is Pickwickian.
Okay. Anyway, so here we're talking about mefarish nami gufei tikshe. 1 second, we have a problem over here. Because if we say that he specified that I'm not going to eat treif, nevela treif skasher masim, when we're saying that it's going to be chayev for that, so it says, why is he chayev? Mushba me'ar sinayu. He took an oath on our Sinai, he's not going to eat treif. Can't be that we have a problem with saying that it's mefarish, that he said specifically that he's not. So Rav Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Shmuel, and Rabbi Yochanan, Damri, they all say, doesn't have the Tarbayu in this one. They all say, Bekulan dvarim bekailal dvarim amutarim and dvarim asurim. It's talking about he added in some kosher food over there together with it. So he said, I'm not going to eat kosher meat or non-kosher meat or this. So, okay. So, and what's going to be the rule? The rule is going to be, it's called the Isser Kailal, that when you add in things where the shvuah can take effect. So then, once it takes effect on this, then it's automatically spreads over to the other ones. Rish Lakish says, he had to might tell even mefarish chatzi shir libid rabbanani b'stam libid Rabbi Kiva dam radam Yisrael atzmei b'kolshu. The way we can explain it according to Rish Lakish is we're going to say that he took an oath that he's not going to eat less than the amount that the Torah forbade. Either he specified that, or according to Rabbi Kiva, where he doesn't need to specify that. Yeah. So therefore, the oath will take effect because the Torah only forbade a kazayas. He took an oath that he's not going to eat less than a kazayas. Okay. We get why Rabbi Yechon doesn't say like Rish Lakish to Mukam no Masis and Kedivri Akal, because he wants the Mishnah to fit with everyone. And according to Rish Lakish, it's going to be either Rabbanan like this or the Rabbi Kiva like that. Doesn't fit with everyone. Rish Lakish, my time Rabbi Yechon. But why does Rish Lakish not go according to Rabbi Yechon? Just to say that he added in another detail. He said, I'm not going to eat kosher meat and I'm not going to eat non-kosher meat. And then when he violates it, he's chayav. So Amarlah, Rish Lakish will tell you that Kiyamrina and Isser Kailal, when do we say the concept of Isser Kailal? Isser Kailal is that umbrella that if we say, the example is like this, that's when something that happens naturally. But Isser Abali, they ask me Amrina. So the example that's given is like this. Someone eats nevela on Yom Kippur, non-kosher food on Yom Kippur. So it's a machlekes between the Rabbanan and Reb Shimon. The Rabbanan say that is chayav achatas because of Yom Kippur, even though it was already traced before Yom Kippur. Because when Yom Kippur comes in, Yom Kippur prohibits not just non-kosher food to eat. Yom Kippur prohibits all food to eat. The prohibition of Yom Kippur includes in this umbrella kosher food and non-kosher food. So he had food that was prohibited to eat, nevela. Now, when Yom Kippur comes in, does the prohibition of Yom Kippur fall on the nevela, that you're not allowed to eat the nevela, the non-kosher food? So we say yes, because of Yisur, according to the Rabbanan. We say yes, because Yisur Kail, because the umbrella of Yom Kippur includes kosher food. So once it takes effect on the kosher, it spreads over to the non-kosher, even though that was prohibited already from beforehand. So, however, Reb Shimon says that we don't say that. We don't say that it spreads over. We were saying that what happened in Yom Kippur if he ate dirt? That's not edible. That wouldn't be considered food. Yeah, it's interesting Gemara over here. I just happened to have this open, but there's a Gemara brachas kas pilpuli b'yemek tikun potter. Someone chews pepper on Yom Kippur is potter, because that's not really edible. Yeah. It's the next page over there in the Gemara I had open. So yeah, it would have to be food. So what we just explained now is why Rish Lakish doesn't accept Rabbi Yechanan's teretz, because he says that yes, there is a concept of Isser Kailal. It means that there's this umbrella where, because this prohibition contains in it things that it could take effect on, so therefore it will spread over to the other ones that are under this umbrella. So even though it's already prohibited from beforehand, but that's only when something is happening naturally. So, for example, it was treif and then Yom Kippur. But when the person himself is taking an oath, we're not going to say that the new oath that includes more is going to take effect on an oath that he already had on himself. And that only works with Torah prohibitions, not with his own words. His own words, we don't say Isser Kailal. That's what Rish Lakish's opinion. So Bishleim Rish Lakish Mishamach Kabat Reb Shimon. Now we understand why Reb Shimon in our Mishnah. If you go back to our Mishnah, we said over here where Reb Shimon says if someone takes an oath he's not going to eat, and then he eats treif. The Chacham says chayav. Reb Shimon says he's potter. Exactly, Reb Shimon says he's potter because he doesn't hold a Isser Kailal. Because we're talking about over here where it's an Isser Kailal. According to the Rabbanan, why is it chayav? Second. Because there's one more detail here. Take a look at this. The Tanikas was taught in a brisa. Reb Shimon Aimer, Kol shulamakis, v'loyamer kazayis el lekarban. Because Reb Shimon also has another opinion. He says that prohibitions are prohibited even less than a kazayas. So according to Rish Lakish, that says, according to Rish Lakish, so 1 second, is this a kail? No. No, we're dropping this kail. Rish Lakish doesn't accept that the Isser kail is the issue. Rish Lakish is saying that it's the that it's because he took on himself a oath that he's not going to eat less than a kazayas, which the Torah never prohibited. But according to Reb Shimon, the Torah prohibited even less than a kazayas. So therefore, according to Reb Shimon, he's going to be exempt in the Mishnah when he eats treif, because treif is prohibited less than a kazayas. I'm saving you from all the other things. What does it say over there? Did we explain that? Yeah, that's what we were saying, that when Yom Kippur comes in, if it dies, if it died before Yom Kippur, it would be Aser. All right. It would be Aser, and then Yom Kippur comes in, and then it would be the prohibition of Yom Kippur would take effect. And okay, now, and why does it say in the Torah the concept of kazayas? That's just when bringing sacrifices, but prohibition, it's already prohibited even before it. Rabbi Yochanan, my time the Rabbi Shimon the Pater, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, it says it's a kailo. Why would he say it's pater? The Gemara answers, Midiu time el mishum is a kailo. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that says it's a kailo. We know what Rabbi Shimon's opinion is. Rabbi Shimon letamed Leslie is a kailo. The Tanya. Rabbi Shimon doesn't hold of Issa kailo. It was taught in a brayso of Shimon. I'm Reichel nevela b'yom kippurim is pater. Someone needs nevela in Yom Kippur is exempt, because there's an umbrella prohibition of Yom Kippur that covers over kosher food and non-kosher food, but it will, according to Reb Shimon, it will only take effect on the kosher, not on the non-kosher. That's his opinion. Okay. Now there's you with me?
No. I mean, how did we jump from shua to eating? Isn't it? We talk all along about these also because he made the shua and then he ate. And now we kind of stuck in kippur in the middle and we're forgetting about the shua part and just saying it's also because he ate.
Yeah. What happened was we had a question. We said that if he takes an oath that he's not going to eat anything that's not edible. If he takes an oath that he's not going to eat, and he eats things that are not edible, he's exempt. Then we had the Mishnah said he takes an oath that he's not going to eat. He eats things that are not kosher, that he's chayav. So 1 second, but non-kosher food is not fit for him to eat. So what's the difference? So the answer that we gave is the second answer coming up, but the answer that we gave so far is that when he said that he's not going to eat and he ate something that's not edible, he just said, I'm not going to eat. So that's not considered eating. But when he said he's not going to eat and he ate non-kosher, that's because he said, I'm not going to eat non-kosher. And he ate the non-kosher. So it was a direct violation. It was mefarish. He said, the problem is, it's chayav on the shua. That's what we're talking about, the shua. Not because of the nevela. No, that's something else. The question is, why should it be chayav on the shua? He already swore on Har Sinai that he can't take one oath, and that's going to take effect on the other oath. So we have two answers. We have Rabbi Yochanan and Rav and Shmuel, and we also have Rish Lakish. So the Rabbi Yochanan and Rav and Shmuel, they say because he included in that oath when he said I'm not going to eat non-kosher, he also said I'm not going to eat kosher or non-kosher. So once the shua takes effect on the kosher, then it spreads over to the non-kosher because it's called the Isser Kailul. And then we gave an example of that is Yom Kippur. Something is non-kosher before Yom Kippur, and then Yom Kippur comes in. So the prohibition of Yom Kippur takes effect on the non-kosher food as well. Because it takes effect on the kosher food, so it takes effect also on the non-kosher. Rish Lakish says a different answer. Rish Lakish says that his oath was he's not going to eat less than a kazayas. And the Torah never forbade less than a kazayas. So his oath takes effect because there's no prior prohibition of the Torah on less than a kazayas. his oath. Okay. Then we asked, why doesn't Rabbi Yochanan say like Rish Lakish? Said because that's a machlekes. Why doesn't Rish Lakish say like Rabbi Yochanan? Said because he doesn't say this is a kailal when you're the one talking. You're the one talking. It's only going to take effect on what it's able to take effect on. When something happens naturally, like Yom Kippur, that's going to take effect on the nevela also. When something happens because you said it, so then that's only going to be on the thing that it's possible to take effect. It's not going to take effect on the non-kosher. That's why Rabbi Yochanan didn't say, Rish Lakish didn't say like Rabbi Yochanan. We just explained that Reb Shimon in the Mishnah says that he's exempt when he eats a non-kosher. We explained according to each opinion why Reb Shimon holds that. According to Rabbi Yochanan, Reb Shimon holds that. Because Rabbi Yochanan says it's Isser Kailal and Reb Shimon doesn't hold it Isser Kailal. According to Rish Lakish, we said Reb Shimon holds he's exempt because Reb Shimon holds that the Torah forbade even less than a kazayas. So when you took the oath, you weren't. It was already on something that the that's what we explained so far. Yeah, with me.
No, with you, but it's funny. If he asked me to write it down now, no way I'll say.
Okay, the next Gemara has introduces another issue that we said like this. We said when it comes to these oaths, it has to be lara lahativ, for good or for bad, which means positive or negative. So
That's a rule.
that's the rule. So now we're going to try to figure out if he took an oath now that he's not going to eat non-kosher. All right. Now, would he be able to take this oath in the positive way that he is going to eat non-kosher? It has to be able to work both ways. So let's take a look. According to Rish Lakish, mishkachas la b'lavahein, in a positive and negative, which means he will say, I will not eat less than a shear of treif, or I will eat less than a shear of treif. Both of those are acceptable. So it's kosher. Not kosher, it's treif. But the Torah didn't prohibit that amount. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, we get that he can't say that I'm not going to eat the treif. Because according to Rabbi Yochanan, he says, I'm not going to eat kosher and non-kosher. So we know that he can't, he's able to say that I'm not going to eat the kosher and non-kosher because he can take the oath that he's not going to eat the kosher. However, Elahain, but how can he take an oath that he's going to eat treif?
Yeah.
That for sure is not going to take effect. Can never take an oath like that. Even if he's saying I'm going to eat kosher and treif, but it can't take effect on the treif. That's clearly prohibited. What we were talking about is, can you take the oath take effect on something that was already prohibited? Not that you're going to kosherize something that's prohibited. No, it's never going to kosherize something that's prohibited. That's why we had the Isser Kailal. That's why we said that if he's taking an oath that he's not going to eat the kosher also, and the treif. And because once it takes effect on the kosher, it takes effect on the prohibited again, right? But if he's saying that I'm going to eat it, so the kosher I can understand. He says I'm going to eat kosher, the kosher meat. No, but he never took an oath that he's going to eat kosher meat, right? Maybe he's going to eat grain. I don't know. He's going to be a vegetarian. He took an oath. He's going to eat this meat, or it's going to eat kosher meat, or whatever. But to say that I'm going to eat non-kosher meat and kosher meat, but he can never kosherize the non-kosher meat by taking an oath that I'm going to eat it. Right? It's always going to be prohibited. So that oath is never going to take effect. So how does it work according to Rabbi Yochanan? Yeah, that's such a big problem that the Gemara retracts. It says Ella Kiderava, rather like Rava. Our teretz that we gave was not accurate. We have to give it new teretz, and that is the Marava Shvush Layochal Bachalafa Afar is Pater. We're talking about when the person ate things that are not edible. We weren't talking about that he was eating not edible halachically. It meant that he was going to eat things that are not edible, completely not edible. Yeah, I'm not going to that he ate dirt. But when he said he's not going to eat, and he ended up eating dirt, so that's when he's exempt. But if you eat non-kosher, that's edible. And that's why it's a violation of his oath. Okay. Amar Rav Mari Afanana Mitanina. Mari says we also learned this in our Mishnah. It says, if someone says, I'm making my wife prohibited to have enjoyment from me if I ate today non-kosher. And if he ate, so then he ate non-kosher. So then his wife is prohibited. No, I'm sorry. If I ate today, if he says I ate today, and it turns out that he ate non-kosher, his wife is prohibited. See that eating non-kosher is considered eating. See, before we were saying before we were saying that maybe it's not considered eating. Now we're proving that it is considered eating. Yeah. According to the rabbis.
Can we stop 1 second?
Why are you saying according to the rabbis? Shimon says he's exempt. We were saying Rav Shimon says he's exempt because he already took an oath that he's not going to eat, so it doesn't take effect on that. Why would the rabbi say that it would take effect? Because he said he's not going to eat. He said he's not going to eat, so the oath takes effect. He ate. The oath was a real oath. Yeah, the oath was a real oath. What did he eat? He ate things that he wasn't allowed to. Reb Shimon says that these were never under the category of the oath. Yeah. I don't know if that's because it's not considered eating. Yeah, because I don't see Reb Shimon arguing of it.
I'm stuck timeline wise because all along we've been discussing Rav Yochanan, Reish Lakish, Rav and Shmuel, although Eretz Yisrael and Babel, all the same generation of time, and they're commenting on the ton of Rav Shimon from before them. And now we come out and give a final answer quoting Rava, who's coming 150 years later, as the answer.
Yeah.
That just doesn't sound how that happens.
So I'm not sure if Rav Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan were speaking directly about this, or if they were speaking about something else. Because we had this before. Yeah, they were speaking about a brisa in Yuma, that if a person says, I'm not going to eat, and eats in Be'el Shev Skasim Ratzim, he's Chayav, Reb Shimon in his pater, said, is Mashba Memar Sinai. So Rav and Shmuel said that I'm not sure if they were talking. We borrowed it, we're using it on our Gemara. That's what I think was happening.
Borrowing Rava.
We borrowed Yechon and Rish Lakish, I think, and we're using this whole discussion on our Gemara, taken from somewhere else. We said no, it's better to explain our Gemara according to the way Rava says that Rava was talking about someone that ate dirt. Is that considered anything? So he said, oh, that must be the pshat in the Mishnah.
Going back to
Going back.
Yeah, because I'm following this chart. Like, jump to century.
Right. Okay. The Gemara says, Hachiyash, that's not a good proof, the Gemara says. Because Hassam, we're talking about if a person says his wife can't have benefit from him if he ate today, and really he did eat, but it was treif. So he said, and we say that his wife can't have benefit, but we say obviously eating treif is considered eating. It says no, Hachiyash, the Hassam, keeping the mikara achal v'hader shtabale. Over there, he already ate it. It doesn't say if I will eat it. It says if I ate today, and he had already eaten it, and then he took a swear, he has made it significant by already eating it. It shows that that's something that he eats. Elahacha, but Bayas, Miyachsheve, he's taking note that he's not going to eat. How do you know that that means that eating non-kosher is going to be considered eating? If a non-religious person comes into Shul on Yom Kippur and he already had his non-kosher sandwich, I said, "Did you eat today?" He says, "No, I didn't eat." So, but the fact is that he ate the non-kosher. It shows that that's considered eating. He already ate it. But if someone says, "I'm not going to eat today," and then he eats non-kosher, that doesn't mean that he violated the oath. Because we don't know that the non-kosher is considered food to him. At least when he took the oath, not necessarily is that considered food. Maybe it's not. The person that ate it
So
already,
we're
we
saying
see that it's food.
So
and
to
then he
some
took an oath.
people, there's food, and there's food.
Yeah.
There's lo chashiv in there.
It's like in Kedushin Tufs.
Uh-huh.
It's
Okay.
very simple.
Amar Rava says, "My time in demand the Isla Yisrael." What's the reason for the opinion of the sages that say that there's the concept of Yisrael? It says, "Mi did have Yisr Maisif," just like Yisr Maisif. Now, let me just explain what Yisr Maisif is. Yisr Maisif, the example that's given is, let's say I have forbidden fat.
So if it's the second one was the Yisr Kadol, but it's applicable to the first
Yeah,
one.
it will cover because once it's chal. Let's say I have forbidden fat. Caleb. Okay, let's say he's on a diet, he doesn't have any. So let's say it's forbidden fat. No, that's prohibited, right? It's the caleb. And then it was of a sacrifice. And then he leaves it overnight without burning it. So it becomes nicer. So originally it was prohibited to the person, but it was allowed to go on the mizbeach. Now that you left it off, now it can't even go on the mizbeach. So there's an increase on the item itself of another prohibition. As this prohibition just became more severe, something more severe. Maisif means that it's more severe. Kailal means that it's more general. So why do we say Isser Maisif? Why do we say Isser Kailal? Well, it's just like Isser Maisif. Just like if it's more severe, it will take effect. So too, if it's more general, so once it has some new thing to take effect on, then it will. My time is man the pater, the last like the one that says exempt because he doesn't hold of that. When do I say Yisr? That's because this same item is becoming more severe, the prohibition. But but in two pieces of meat, I'm not going to say that. Just because this piece of meat is becoming prohibited, that doesn't mean that this piece of meat, which has the same prohibition now, is going to be more prohibited. According to the one that says it's a kailal, according to that opinion, the sages, Amar, if a person says Shvuah shleichal teinim, I'm not going to eat teinim. And then he says, I'm not going to eat teinim or figs. And he says, I'm not going to eat figs and grapes. Because now it's going to take effect on both. We just said before that Rish Lakish wouldn't agree with this, but I guess according to Rabbi Yochanan, he would say that it does take effect. The Gemara says pshita, that's obvious. Well, it says ma the I could have thought that maybe not, maybe only when it happens naturally. But Isra b'miatzmei layamrin mashmalan say that even when it happens, even when mashmalan, that even if he's the one that's taking notes, it would still apply. I guess we'll just leave it here.
Yeah.
Right, before you leave, I have time for a commercial.
Okay, go ahead. Did I turn this off?
Yeah, turn it off.
Turn the recording off.